Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Hiscox. Go to hiscoxusa.com/smallbiz for your business insurance needs. And by GoToMeeting. Sign up for GoToMeeting today by using promo code START to begin your free trial.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money and defeat you.
Hey everybody, we're here at the Read, Write, Web Summit in New York City at Columbia University. I'm here with Mike McCue, who is the co-founder and CEO of Flipboard, the amazing startup that's captured a lot of people's attention and a lot of investment dollars. We're going to find out why right after this message from our sponsors. Hello everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, the host of This Week in Startups, and I'm here to tell you about the wonderful GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting. Wait a second. No, I got to start here. Wait, GoToMeeting. It's not easy to do that. It's much harder than it appears. I use GoToMeeting all the time, and this is one of the great things about having a podcast like this is that I get to pick the partners. And I made a list of the products I use every day, every week, and I gave them to the sales team, and I said, hey, these are the people I would want as partners because I use their product. Right at the top of the list was GoToMeeting because I use it every week. Let me show you how easy it is to set up a meeting. And I'm going to guarantee you it works and it's flawless across all of the different types of browsers and desktops, everything. It just works. And when you're setting up a meeting, by definition, it's a meeting, it's important. And you want to look like you know what you're doing. Because if you don't get that meeting started on time and easily, you look like a dope. I cannot tell you how many times I've been on an angel investing call. How many times has this happened? We've been on a pitch and somebody can't get a goddamn meeting set up. And you're just like, you start feeling bad for the person because they've wasted 10 minutes. Your first impression, yeah. It's the first impression. Well, let me show you how easy it is so you don't look like an idiot when you're trying to set up an important meeting. Boom, you just go right to your desktop. This is if you got the software installed. I mean, dead simple. I want to schedule a meeting. Okay, what is the name of the meeting? Tyler's contract renegotiation, whatever. It's going to be today. It's going to be at 7 o'clock. It's not a reoccurring meeting. Well, it's reoccurring every year. So can I set it as? No, it's not reoccurring. We're not going to do this every week, Tyler. Provide audio information. Use the GoToMeeting or integrated audio. Or are we going to use a conference call number? Like maybe you say, I have a bad internet connection here. I don't want to let people use the voice over IP. I don't trust the internet. I'm only going to do the conference call number. Or maybe we're only going to do voice over IP. I don't want anybody dialing in. I'm going to say provide both. And or I can put in my own conference call information. Hey, I'm going to put a password in here that Tyler rocks the house deeply. And then I just schedule that meeting, and boom, we're done. We're done, and I can go email it to other people if I want to. And an email invitation has been done. I can just look at the invitation text here. Boom. I can copy to my clipboard, and you're just done. And it's all done. In seconds, you've just created an easy-to-use meeting. So if you've ever had those meetings where it just works, here it is. Use your microphone and speakers. A headset is recommended. Or call in using our number. Da-da-da-da. When I see that, I know the person is serious. And they got the meeting ID, and it's from GoToMeeting. It just gives you that very secure feeling that this meeting is going to go off without a hitch. Don't look like a dope by using one of these other cheap pieces of garbage software that doesn't work, frankly. That's it.
They're dedicated to it.
They've been doing it for a long time.
It's in their name.
GoToMeeting. I mean, I don't know how many times I got to tell you guys about it, but this is the one that works.
It's not a tool that's meant for just chit-chat or whatever. It's meant for meetings.
It's meant for meetings. It just gets it done. And speaking of getting it done, what a great episode we have for you coming up right now. And the reason you're able to get this episode for free, the reason it exists, the reason we have HD, the reason we have beautiful lighting, the reason we have Tyler Crowley's insights, the reason we have craft services, the reason we've got engineers here who make it flawless and perfect and make sure it's uploaded to iTunes the same gosh darn day, which is a pet peeve of mine. Like, I can't tell you. I fight with these guys all the time. I want that video up within 3 hours of the end of the show. And it takes work. You have to bust your butt to get that that show up and run. We have all this equipment. We got the TriCaster 850. That costs 40 dimes. It's not cheap. And we are so lucky to have GoToMeeting as a sponsor because it's a great product and it's flawless and it never fails. Thank you to GoToMeeting for providing everybody with this episode. Thank you, GoToMeeting. Hey everybody, I'm here with Mike McCue, the founder of Flipboard and a serial entrepreneur. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Co-founder.
Co-founder, yes. We always have to get that correct, huh?
That's right. It
is important that people understand that startups are a team sport, not an individual sport.
Exactly right.
But sometimes people, it sort of feels like the perception in the press is that it's a singular entrepreneur, taking on the world. It's not, it's not,
no.
right?
No, you have the people who are doing the hard work, and then you have some people who are out, marketing the company.
Also known as taking credit for
it. Right. So invariably those things tend to happen. But I think that, yeah, you're absolutely right. It is all about building a great team and empowering folks, and it's full of ups and downs, and it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, so Flipboard, everybody who doesn't know, an iPad application, what would you describe it? I've used it, and I describe it as sort of the future of RSS readers, or what RSS readers could have been. How do you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, I think of it as a social magazine. Now, admittedly, that's a new thing. And we wanted to create a new idea or a new category, if you will, because it doesn't really, initially it didn't even do RSS.
Right.
It was really focused on reading your Twitter feeds and your Facebook feeds,
right,
and almost utilizing these social networks as sort of social RSS.
Right.
But yet it wasn't a Twitter client. You couldn't even post a tweet, in the first version. So it's something totally new, and we wanted to really, because the iPad is a new kind of form factor, I think it enables people and companies, entrepreneurs, to create totally new kinds of packaging and form factor and UI that can take the world further in terms of things, in our case, like content discovery and consumption.
And so when you say curated, just to explain to the readers on a very practical level, you look at my Twitter stream.
Yeah.
People have tweeted stuff from various news organizations.
Exactly.
I assume you have some sort of whitelist of these are actually news as opposed to some other URL.
Yeah.
And then you put them together in just a beautiful layout where you can just flip, thus Flipboard, through those stories.
Thanks. Yeah, that's exactly right. We try to let you flip through all the things your friends are sharing with you across all these different social networks. And by friends, I mean, people that you're acquainted with, people that you're inspired by. Might be reporters that you really care about, bloggers. It might be actual news organizations like
right,
the New Yorker, for example. And we also let you follow Twitter lists or Facebook pages. So, for example, you might follow all the New Yorker writers and all the things that they're tweeting about, all at once in one section on Flipboard.
So what's important there is I'm not following the New Yorker writers for their stories. I'm writing them for the URLs they're tweeting of other people's stories. I'm getting their worldview, what they're reading,
exactly,
not what they've written.
It might be, it's a mix of both, it turns out. So they'll often, of course, post, hey, I just wrote this story. But it's exactly as you said, that what you're really getting is you're building a relationship with these reporters. You're seeing life through their eyes. And that, what were the insights that led to some of these articles? Photojournalists, another great example, being able to follow all the photojournalists who contribute to the National Geographic, for example, is a
right,
fascinating thing to do.
And so you do that curation for me in some cases, and in some cases you're implying what curation I want just from who I'm following.
And on top of that, we also allow you to enable the curation that lots of other people are doing. So you can search for Twitter lists. You can search for worldwide photojournalists, and then you can see Twitter lists that lots of other people have created. In many cases, those people themselves are photojournalists who've created these lists of other
right,
photojournalist friends that they have.
So in some cases, you're searching for curation.
Exactly. You're searching for curation. That's right.
And how does this change consumer behavior? I mean, you guys have I think low millions of people have downloaded the app. Is that correct?
That's
Do you publish what the number is, or
we haven't? But I mean, you know,
low millions is what you would see in the iTunes store, I guess.
Yeah, and on the iPad, you know, we're only on the iPad today.
Right.
We've had a little over 2.5 million downloads so far.
Wow. And there are 25 million iPads in existence. Is that correct?
So about 10%.
10% have downloaded the app.
Yes.
And I'm assuming hundreds of thousands a day pop it open.
Yeah.
And what's the average engagement?
Well,
and how do you measure engagement?
Well, we measure engagement in lots of different ways. Probably the biggest metric that I look at is what we call flips. You know, how many people are flipping through, or how many flips are people doing through the content. So, for example, 2.5 months ago, we were at about 100 million flips per month, and now we're at about 400 million flips per month.
Right. So with 250,000 people, and you start doing some math, people are addicted to it, right? It's a daily type thing for the people who do embrace it.
It is. Yes, I would agree with that. It's a daily thing, and you know, I think that what it starts to do is become a place that people like to start their day with. Our peak hours are in the morning and at night.
Fascinating.
Interestingly, so it's in fact our most popular time is 8 to 11 o'clock at night.
It's in bed.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
On the couch, in bed, watching TV.
So this is whenever you look at new media and attention moving,
yeah.
You say who loses, who wins. In this case, those hours between 8 and 11 are either people watching television or making love. So who loses in this?
Right. Well,
the spouse or just watching television news? What do you think?
Well, you know, one of the things that's been interesting about the iPad is that it has, I don't know if you've noticed this, but it brings computing into other aspects of your life that you didn't normally bring computing into.
Other physical areas.
Other physical areas. You know?
The bed, the couch, the pool side,
whatever. Or for example, you know, I have kids. We have 4 kids. You know, and one of the great ways that if we have 2 little girls at the table to keep them entertained after dinner and they're just kind of getting restless is to give them iPads, and so they'll sit there and use the iPad at the dinner table at a restaurant, right? So, you know, there's the device itself, the iPad, is really starting to transform how people consume and where they consume.
Where they compute.
Content.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Just gave our 18-month daughter my old iPad, and she picked up my BlackBerry the other day, and she tried to swipe it, and I said, oh dear, no, RIM doesn't have swiping. That's a very ancient technology.
My daughter tried to swipe the laptop screen the other day. You know, like, wait, why?
Why is it not swiping? Wow, the
exactly.
amazing impact that Steve Jobs has had on computing. I mean, your company exists.
That is
on top of this platform, but you've been in the platform business before, of course. Mm-hmm. Sold your first company from humble beginnings to Netscape.
Yes.
When was that? When did you start the company, and what was it?
Started a company called Paper Software in 1989. I had been at IBM for a few years, and I left IBM inspired by Steve Jobs, inspired by pen computing at the time.
Pen computing. And what year is this?
1989.
1989, inspired by pen computing,
Yeah.
which was essentially tablets, instead of using your finger, using a pen.
That's right. And I called the company Paper because I wanted to make technology that was simple and as practical as paper.
Right.
And
so this is 21 years ago.
Yes, a little ahead of my time.
Right.
And so, you know, needless to say, we didn't get very far on the tablet front, even though we worked on it for several years.
Were there tablets at that time?
There were some that started to appear in the early 90s. Do you remember?
General Magic.
Like General Magic. Go had an operating
Go.
system called PenPoint that ran on a variety. Remember
Palm.
the Momenta? Remember
Momenta,
the Momenta
yeah.
tablet?
Yeah.
So there was a movement at the time. Newton had happened.
The Newton, of course, Apple's first iPad.
Exactly. But it was...
why didn't it work the first time around, in your mind?
Well, I think that there were many elements that needed to come together. For example, processing power. Handwriting recognition was the only model that worked. There was no notion of touch-sensitive, you know, keyboards. You had to use the stylus, right?
Right.
You know, stylus is a challenging thing. Steve Jobs, I think, has it right that, you know, stylus is just not a great form of computing. It can be helpful for certain uses, like taking notes or sketching, but
it's
by
limited.
and large, it's very limiting.
I mean, the Wacom tablet shows us that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like artists use it, and that's about it.
That's about it, exactly. And so I think that, you know, there was no, remember at the time there was no internet, let alone any wireless data connectivity.
There was no
right?
web, certainly.
There was no web, I should
Yes,
say.
yes.
I should say, yes, that's right.
Yeah. So you wind up selling that company to Netscape.
Right.
What year was that?
That was in 96.
96. Is that that's post Netscape's IPO?
Just after their IPO.
And so you meet Mark Andreessen. He likes your software. And tell us about that meeting.
That was a great meeting. We had evolved
Where did it
the company.
occur?
It was at Netscape's headquarters at the time, which was on Middlefield Road there.
Wow.
We had evolved the company to be a 3D browsing company. Quite a set of pivots actually went through there. We landed on being a 3D browsing company.
VRML.
VRML.
Jaron Lanier.
Yes, exactly. Virtual reality.
Mark Pesce.
Mark Pesce and
a whole
and
cadre of people believed what? What was VRML?
Well, the idea was to let you browse the web in 3D and to bring these scenes to life that you could, kind of do the whole snow crash vision, right?
Right. Snow Crash, of course, being the novel.
The novel,
that launched it all. I mean, in people's minds. Cyberspace.
Cyberspace. Things like Second Life now are executing on. And so, but we built it turns out, interestingly enough, we built the first plugin ever for Netscape Navigator.
Right. And you could go to a website, right? And you could actually walk around a website.
Yeah. And you could look through, if there was a real estate website, you could walk through buildings and things like that.
In a way, what the work you're doing now at Flipboard, flipping through, was what people's concept was of VRML, that you would walk around a library or walk through it.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway and lesson of VRML and why it failed so brutally?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Very, very much ahead of its time. The technology to, this was at a time when we were all still on dial-up connections.
Sure.
The 3D acceleration market hadn't really kicked into gear
People
yet.
didn't have video cards at the time.
People didn't have video cards, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we were still running in 1024 by 768, and we were all psyched that we had 1 million colors,
Right.
So like that kind of, we were very, very early on. The capacity to download these 3D worlds, when you started downloading textures and stuff, it would take forever to download one of these things, right? So and the browsing technology was so primitive. I mean, there were, again, technology pretty far ahead of its time.
In the examples I remember from that time, I was 25 or 26 years old, and I remember VRML, and I remember your software, I remember in the browser. You would actually walk through a library. You'd walk through Yahoo's catalog, for example, find a book you wanted to read or something, and open it up, look at it, and flip through the book as an avatar.
Right. Exactly, that kind of stuff. And I was particularly interested in the visualization of large amounts of information in 3D space.
Right.
One thing that I was always influenced by was Maya Lin's Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C., which is a beautiful example of this, where when you walk down past that memorial, you have a small wall that gets bigger and bigger and bigger based on the number of casualties through the war that happened, and the names.
And it's time-based.
It's time-based. The names are listed in chronological order.
So when the wall
as
becomes
opposed
10
to
feet,
alphabetical. That's the height of the war.
The height of the death.
The height of the death. And so that visual sense of what happened and experiencing that information in that way was part of what we were trying to get at with paper software.
Infographics, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It seems to almost have been forgotten for a while as the internet worked out its kinks.
Yeah.
Now, is it great vindication for you to have actually made a product now that has massive consumer adoption and love?
It's taken a long time to get to this point, but yeah, it feels great. It feels really good to have a product that is hitting on the right trends at the right time.
Yeah.
It's so hard to do that as an entrepreneur. Oftentimes I've overshot.
What was in between those two times? You had Netscape, the Netscape sale in '96, and then you have Flipboard now. What happened in the intermediate area?
Well,
any other companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a company called Tell Me with another group of amazing people who I had met at Netscape and at Microsoft, who we were competing with. And basically that idea was to use speech technology to allow you to say whatever you wanted on any phone in the world by calling an 800 number.
Right.
And then get it. And it was a very simple idea, but very, very challenging to implement. And we did actually implement it. In fact, to this day, it's still live. You can call 1-800-555-TELL from any phone in the world for free, and you can say what you want, and it'll give it to you. It's pretty cool.
And I remember the first demo I ever heard was somebody calling their MP3 library.
Yeah.
And pulling up. I was in Germany, and one of the investors in Germany.
Right.
I think, was Berta an investor?
the Berta company, media company. Anyway,
No,
some German who was an investor told me, he said, watch this, and he took out his phone, dialed Tell Me, and pulled up his MP3s and started playing his stuff over the internet streaming through a phone. Again, trying, very Snow Crash-esque, like taking a virtual environment and pulling data and using agents, in fact, to get this stuff.
Exactly. And it was what we had built was a purely cloud-based service. So basically it was a web browser that was written in the cloud. It did JavaScript and SSL and all that stuff. And instead of rendering something on the screen, it output audio. And instead of clicking on links, you spoke to it.
Right.
But it was a full-blown web browser. And so when you would use it, it would actually go to a website to resolve the question, and then it would spit out the answer in audio.
So you do VRML, try to build virtual worlds.
Right.
Disaster. You try to build, I mean, great as a business success to sell to Netscape. We should all be selling. You do Tell Me.
Right.
Audio, speech to text, et cetera.
Right.
Never gains mass adoption, but sell to Microsoft. We're starting to see a trend here. Too early, but a good exit.
Right.
And now actually getting, finally, the consumers to embrace the product.
Right.
Incredible, a 20-year career, and you just so innovative. How do you, as an entrepreneur, know? Did you know at the time when you were doing the voice stuff and when you were doing the VRML stuff, I'm too far ahead?
Yeah, I did, and so what we ended up doing was, with the voice stuff, for example, was pivoting away from the consumer experience where. We started building that in '99 when the market was crashing in 2000 and so on, and it was clear that we were going to need to do something. I had hired a lot of people. I hired 200 people or something like that. Grew way too fast, frankly, and ultimately we were caught where the economy had crashed and we needed to survive. And so what we did was we focused on our platform that we had built, our voice recognition platform. And we basically went out and powered really large enterprise 800 numbers and also 411, which was, you could argue, was kind of like our voice portal. And so so Tell Me does about 45% of all 411 calls in the US to this day. We turned that into a $100 million business. It was profitable, it was cash flow positive, but it took, 8 years to get there.
Yeah. Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, the host of This Week in Startups, and I'm here with Tyler Crowley, my partner in crime, and we're going to talk to you today about Hiscox. Hiscox is the first company to provide direct-to-consumer insurance, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. Do you have insurance yet for Squeal, your company?
Do not.
So this is something you're going to want to do when we finish the program today. You simply go to hiscox.com. You can pull up my screen here. Very easy, and we're going to pick small business insurance direct. And I'm going to get a quote. I'm going to pick here that California IT Consulting, right? Pretty much describes what you do.
Yes, that's me.
And then what do you want, general liability or full business owner's policy? We'll go for general liability.
Delaware Corporation, does that matter?
No, I don't think it does. It's for anywhere in the United States. And you got to just fill out a couple of quick questions here. So as you can see, is your business operated out of home or not? What is your structure? Is it a limited liability corporation? Is it a partnership, joint venture, sole proprietor? All these basic questions. If you don't know how to answer that, you need to get a lawyer and have your business set up properly. But this is how many full-time, part-time employees do you have? That's a pretty easy question. Other than computer equipment or peripherals, brochures or documents, do you or your business supply, manufacture, or distribute any tangible goods or products? Are you making something in the real world? Pretty critical question. Do you perform construction, installation, removal, or physical repair of any property or tangible good? It's probably no if you're an internet company. Yes. Do you currently have or similar insurance? They always have to ask that. And has anybody made a claim against you? They need to know if you're somebody who's got litigation and all that kind of stuff. They want to make sure, and if they take those people out of the mix, it's good because those are the people who are the high-risk people. And they're going to charge high-risk people differently, obviously. Just like high-risk drivers probably get charged differently. I'm assuming that.
It's like signing up for car insurance.
It's super simple. It's super simple. And everybody, cool. And this is just to get the quote and get ready to go. Yeah. So you have no reason not to do it. Please indicate which of the following business your business generally implements. customer signs off on deliverables, dedicated customer support, hey, contracts with indemnification clauses in your favor. If you don't know what an indemnification clause is, or you don't have contracts, hey, you need to get a lawyer.
That's key,
And or maybe go on DocStock or some of these places and start to educate yourself on liability. Formal change management procedures, including customer sign-off, legal review of modifications made to your standardized contracts, i.e. your terms of service. These are the important things. And then you just click on, hey, I want to view my quote. How much is this going to cost me? And you click on that. Hey, look at that. They calculate your quote. And boombo, bambo, here we go. 90 bucks a month, $1,000 a year. I've got my coverage. I mean, it's so simple to set this up. It's something you really need to do. And what people don't realize is just having that general liability insurance, having that professional insurance is not that expensive. And as we've heard many times, you can get sued for any reason by anybody at any time, and they don't have to be right. And frequently they're not.
Right.
And a lot of it's sour grapes or whatever. But for what you pay...
How many times have you been sued?
Actually sued or threatened with suits?
Both.
I would say threatened with suits. In the Weblogs Inc. days, it was a couple times a month.
Wow.
Because we were publishing content and we were providing information, and hey, and that's one of the things a small business does. And then other times we were providing services, and a couple times. And a lot of time, there are some people who are just very litigious, and there's a lot of ambulance chasers out there, and there's a lot of nonsense that goes on in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And the way I look at this is...
So actual lawsuits.
This is...
How many times people try to sue? You don't want to get into that.
It's probably,
more than you care to...
It's probably under 5 or 6.
Wow, it's still a lot.
But it's still a lot. It's one every 2 or 3 years. And so the way I look at it is this is sleep at night.
So you easily would have paid...
Easily...
$90 a month.
Also, really, it's sort of like peace of mind. I like to be focused on my business.
Right.
And for $90 a month, or $100 a month, or $70 a month, or $200 a month, whatever it is, it's like what you would pay on the lease on your computer. I mean, you're paying like $1,000 a month for servers, for $1,000 a year to have basic insurance,
like
so that if something goes wrong, you at least can sleep at night and say, hey, we're not going to go out of business. You don't want to sacrifice the whole business because you don't have insurance.
I wonder how, like, as an investor, you like the idea that
oh my God,
companies...
if I'm an angel investor in something and they don't have insurance, it's just like, what, are you going to blow the whole investment? You're going to risk the whole farm? It would be like driving your car around.
Right.
You got a brand new BMW or Tesla or Mercedes and you're driving it around town with no insurance.
And it's about the same price. As
it's less. It's less.
Than the car insurance.
Exactly. So anyway, that's Hiscox. They're a great, great company, and they're a great sponsor of This Week in Startup. So go ahead and give it a shot and let us know how it works out. Thanks, Hiscox. And so going back to Flipboard and the usage of it and the promise of it, you've had some amazing venture capitalists invest. Tell us about the rounds of investment and the attention you've drawn from investors.
Well, so the investors that I've worked with have been folks that I've worked with in the past at TellMe and at Netscape.
Wow.
John Doerr and Ellen Powell. Ellen Powell from Kleiner Perkins is on my board. She's fantastic. She actually used to work for me at TellMe. Wow. She was our first business development person. And then, of course, I've worked with John for many years at Netscape and then at TellMe. And he's always had an amazing ability to help us move the company forward. And then also Danny Reimer from Index, who actually was the guy that discovered me in Woodstock, New York, and convinced Netscape that they should talk to me and that ultimately that they should buy Paper Software. And so, so Danny I'd worked with when he was at Hamilton Quist then, and then he was at the Barksdale Group, and he invested in TellMe. So I've got a lot of experience with these guys, and I really trust them. I love them to death, and they're just wonderful people to build a company with.
So one of the great things, I guess, is if you work hard and you do a good job, the investors stick around, huh?
Not all investors, I'd say, apply to that. You can apply that rule to, but for the really good ones, yeah, it's definitely true.
That is, I mean, I guess your advice to entrepreneurs when picking a venture capitalist?
Well, first of all, exactly like what you said, you should pick a venture capitalist, not just take money from anybody that will give you money, right? And I think that's one of the key things, is that entrepreneurs sometimes, I think, are too willing to just go for the highest bidder. Right. Take money for whoever will give them the best terms, right? And really, I think the most important thing is to find the right people that you want to have on your board. Why? Well, not all VCs make great board members.
What makes a good board member?
What makes a good board member? I mean, well, that's a good question. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes. You have to really, dictated probably largely by the kind of entrepreneur you are. So for me, for example, what makes a good board member for me is somebody that can inspire me to think bigger, who can open up doors that I can't open up, who can challenge me from time to time on strategy or what we're thinking, but in a productive, positive way.
Right. Not in a micromanaging, like this isn't getting done.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You don't need that kind of nonsense.
I mean, I'm an entrepreneur because I want to work for myself, not for a bunch
your
of
work ethic should not be the question. And with
Right.
20 years under your belt, you need somebody who's going to be a coach and a sounding board.
Yes, exactly. Coaching, I think, is the operative word there. And I think that I really believe that if you surround yourself with amazing people, both on the board, with employees, also with customers and advisors, picking your customers and picking people that you work with, even on the customer or partner front, it enriches the whole company, enriches the whole entrepreneurial experience. It makes you better as an entrepreneur.
How will Flipboard make money?
Well, it's early days still. But the core thesis going in is that we believe that there's an opportunity to convert what the web pages are today that you see on the web into something that look more like magazine pages and present them on a device like the iPad. And instead of selling ad banners against that content, which have only marginal degrees of success.
The banner is a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean,
better said, I guess. I
finally got a laugh
diplomatic.
out of the marketing person. You can sing around and see the marketing person. How are we doing so far? Is it a good interview?
Yeah, excellent. You covered a great amount.
Okay, good. Now come the tough questions.
Yeah.
Monetization, always a tough question.
So I think that there's an opportunity to have full-page print-style ads inserted within these magazine
Flip
page.
through, get a beautiful ad, perhaps interactive.
Right.
Maybe takes on some of the unique features of the iPad, location, and
there's
the
a lot
ability
of
one-click
opportunities there.
purchases inside of apps.
That's right. And also these ads are inherently, they're part of the social fabric, right?
So Jason bought a deal on Groupon and tweeted it. You put that deal into one of my friend Matt, the cameraman producer here's Flipboard, and it says Jason bought this, and then charge them or get the affiliate fee.
If you're willing to have that information, publicized, absolutely.
Right.
But I actually think it's ironic that I think it's actually really simple now compared to all of these other potential future directions. That just displaying a full page image, like a print ad, I think is going to be sufficient enough to build a good business.
You don't need to tap into the interactivity of the device.
Well, I think in the fullness of time, yes, but I think that you don't need to do it right now because if you look at these highly interactive ads, they can be too flashy, they can take too long to download, they can take too long to load and present to the user, and people don't want to wait around for an ad. Right? That's the worst
that's a
thing
disaster.
you could do
Terrible
to a
user experience.
Right.
Yeah. Well, these would be pre-cached because you are downloading ahead of time.
Right. But part of the problem that you see with a lot of these apps, these magazine apps today, is that they have to go download these huge amounts of content before you can even look at the article. Apple's solving that with background downloads, but what represents 30 to 40% of that content are ads. These highly interactive ads with video and all that stuff. So it's really important to have an experience that, for us anyway, this is our point of view, is that within Flipboard we want to create something that simulates the magazine experience.
Right.
You're flipping through, you see a full page ad, and you can look at it, you can flip past it if you don't like it. And the way I think about this is that think about a favorite magazine or hobby that you have, right? Like let's say you're into mountain biking. Well, when you buy Mountain Biking magazine, you actually want those ads. The ads are part of the experience,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
And now,
fashion magazines, especially
fashion
car
magazines.
magazines.
Is a great example, right? Vogue has 1.2 million readers in the U.S. and they make $300 million a year just on advertising. It's amazing, and people.
A million readers, $300 million in advertising. That's $300 a user.
There's no internet business that does that today.
No.
Not even Google.
No.
So the thing that's really amazing about that is that. On top of all that, people actually love the ads in Vogue. They're
well produced,
right? And they pay $5 for Vogue, and if you offered them a version that didn't have the ads, they wouldn't want it.
Right.
So how do we get that in the digital world, right? How do we cross that? How do we get to that same realm in the digital world?
And how did we get here? I mean, why did the banner take hold? I mean, didn't we all know that it sucked from the beginning?
I think we overthought things. I think we overthought things a little too much. You know, I made some of these mistakes myself. I mean, I was at Netscape when we were building a lot of these templates for these content providers. You know, and I think that the way the web works today is still kind of a legacy of how it was constructed when we were on dial-up connections.
Yes.
You know, remember the San Jose Mercury News was one of the more innovative websites.
Yeah.
And you know, websites started to kind of sort of go around this idea of, okay, so we have a web page. Let's display the content here. We'll have a small image because we can't have a lot of bandwidth. Then let's have like toolbar navigation on top.
Yep.
Let's put sidebar for like related links. Oh, and we could put a skyscraper ad here. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll put an ad banner there.
Yeah, we'll just
And
slap
before you
it
know
in.
you're trying to do all this on one web page.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, it doesn't
It's a
work.
mess.
And it doesn't and then you take content that normally looks absolutely beautiful when you look at it in print, and it looks like, it looks terrible when you see it on the web.
Yeah, smashing it together because we wanted to have one page, one download.
Exactly.
Yeah, now it's changed a little bit. You're starting to see marquee and big, wide, beautiful ads on the New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Somewhat effective, yeah.
It depends. You know, if they interrupt the experience, it's really challenging. Now, if you look at their iPad apps, then yes, I think that those are becoming way more effective. Those content.
So let's talk about the content. You know, as a content producer, when people started pulling the RSS feeds for Engadget, for example, and to RSS readers, I was like, that's fine, we publish them for that. But once they put ads on them, I said, wait a second. Something's wrong here. That's my content, and it says at the bottom of the RSS feed, no commercial use.
Right.
And we went to my Yahoo, we went to NewsGator at the time, and a bunch of other ones, and we said, if you take anything more than an excerpt, we will sue you / block you.
Right.
And they all folded immediately when Nick Denton and I from Gawker went to them and did that.
Right.
I think you guys had a little bit of pushback from some publishers, and then other ones really loved it. What's the state of, and what's your philosophy of leveraging other people's content? And fair, where's the fair in fair use?
Well, the way I view this is that this is everyone else's content that we have the privilege of presenting to readers. And what we want to do is we want to respect and honor that content, present it in a way that absolutely gives the reader the best impression of that content possible, so that they're going to share it, so they're going to click into it, they're going to view it, they're going to read it. We don't believe in inserting ads into people's content or around people's content that is their content. It's the only way I think this works is that you enable the publishers themselves to sell ads themselves, and make a lot more money with that, with that ad model than they would otherwise. And unless you can really bring value to that equation, unless you can bring audience, unless you can bring new models for displaying ads or presenting their content, then I don't think you can really build a good business around this. And I think that if you look at the aggregators of the past, and I don't really view us as an aggregator, though some people, sometimes
curator,
look at us that
aggregator.
Way.
You're republishing, representing,
Yeah.
I mean, these are all similar words.
Yeah, they're similar words.
Pick the word you like.
Fair enough, exactly. And so I think, it's too cluttered, it's too slow, it's too complex. You can't monetize content very well. Paywalls are coming up as a result. This makes it very hard for content to be distributed widely on social networks because you've built walls around them. And as a result, great journalism, isn't going to be as well funded.
The ecosystem is a little bit foobarred.
And I think that there's an opportunity.
You guys can look up foobar. You understand what foobar is.
I do. I have
You've been in the business.
In the military. And so I think that the opportunity now with the iPad, with HTML5, and with social media is to reformulate and repackage how great content gets presented to users and how it's monetized. And I do believe that I'm pretty optimistic that there's opportunities now for publishers like they've never had before to have their content really shine, to have it load quickly, to have it be monetized way better with much better advertising, and ultimately build a real good business and support great journalism.
And if you guys were selling ads to Samsung for their new television, and you've got 100 different identified tech blogs, and you have these beautiful full-page ads, and they're $25 CPMs, I'm assuming that if I'm the publisher of Engadget, which I no longer am, or Joystick, or any of this other blogs, I could take a percentage of that revenue and split it with you when people look at it on Flipboard. That would be technically possible, yes?
Yes, absolutely. In
Now,
fact,
would it make business sense?
Well, we just, interestingly enough, we just went live with Engadget on Flipboard as a Flipboard Pages partner. And what that means is that we built these templates that basically you can flow the Engadget articles into to make these articles look and feel like pages of Engadget magazine. And then ultimately the idea is that Engadget could sell full page ads against that content.
Right. Split the revenue with you.
Well, assuming if we can drive audience for Engadget, then yes, we could have some kind of a revenue share model, and the publishers have been very excited about doing that, provided that we can provide audience to them.
Yeah, and you can. This has been an amazing interview. I highly recommend, if you don't have an iPad, to buy one for your parents, and the first application you should give them is Flipboard. That's what I did with my dad, and he loved it. Honestly, it's a true story.
Thank you so much.
I mean, that is really, when you give your dad, who's never used a computer, the item, and you watch them use Flipboard, it is magical. They just know what to do.
I love hearing that.
And
That's why we built it.
So great to see an entrepreneur be early, and perfectly on time. It's just great, isn't it? It's a good feeling.
Well, I think it was Thomas Edison that said that there's nothing more important or nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I think we hopefully may have hit on that here.
Final question I just thought of. You're over 40, I assume, at this point.
Yeah, 43.
You're not supposed to be able to create a great company anymore. What is going on over here? How do you explain this success at the age of 43?
Right, yes.
Do you buy this, you're only a good entrepreneur under 30 nonsense?
Well, obviously I don't buy that, but I do think there are some wonderful entrepreneurs who are younger and have incredibly optimistic and wide-eyed views of the world, and that's what makes great companies oftentimes. Steve Jobs started a company when he was that age, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and so on. Jack Dorsey, Mark Andreessen.
Yep.
But I think that what really makes great entrepreneurs is the ones where they build something, they learn, they build something again, they learn even more, they keep going, and they keep doing
Perseverance.
Or they continue to build the same thing, like Bill Gates at Microsoft, for example.
Keep swinging the bat. Perseverance, resilience.
Perseverance, resilience. I mean, that's ultimately what really. Well, you've built companies as well. There are so many times when it just doesn't seem like it's going to work, and most people would just quit because it's just so hard. And I think that when you don't quit, that's what creates success. It's just through the constant, continuous, relentlessness of moving forward, no matter how hard it gets.
Steve Jobs, the iPad, after the disaster of not Kindle.
The Newton.
The Newton.
Right.
What a disaster.
And which,
embarrassing.
Yeah, and which, of course, he wasn't even at the company for at the time.
Yeah.
I think the Newton was the first thing he killed when he came back to
Absolutely.
Apple. But it is, I think this story of Steve Jobs, and Apple and Pixar and Next is an incredibly inspiring story for entrepreneurs.
Never give up.
Yeah, it's not like this success happened overnight.
Yes, another overnight success, 30 years in the making.
Exactly.
Another overnight success, 21 years in the making. Perseverance, personified. Mike McCue of Flipboard. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. It's been a minute, so you thought you were safe. You trapped behind these bars like you locked in a cage. Stuck behind bars, making minimum wage. Your bar's tender. Here's a tip, get you a raise. Ain't nobody gonna offer a profit to motherfuckers who ain't rocking it, topping the hip hop charts and then stopping it. Quick to drop a set opposite of the hottest shit, copping it. It's the profit kid. Always quick to accomplish. I'm positive. Getting green like a roster with a lot of dread. Money's piling up like the Washington Monument. The way I'm steering this track, it'll make you car sick. The only time you gonna see green is when you barf in. I'm the Mothman, consider this the prophecy. I'm in it to win it, that's why I'm making a profit, see. And I won't spend it till my rich is stupendous. And I'm selling sicker than tech, is the method is to keep it independent. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.